Fifth initiation, mastership, adeptship. And it's interesting, it's a very Leo initiation, the fifth sign, and you really become Mercury becomes the sun. Mercury and the sun are one, and you've arrived at that point of synthesis. Man is perfected as far as this planetary scheme goes. Though he may, if he will, take 2 further initiations, and not only 2, but 4. Although the 8th and the 9th initiation, we are told, is very rarely taken on this kind of planet, because we are a non-sacred planet, and those are very sacred initiations. It really, the symbol here really is the 5-pointed star, and we have become a true and full member of the hierarchy. So at the 5th initiation, the force or energy of the planet, esoterically understood, and not merely the force or energy of the material globe, is at his disposal. Now, I think we already saw that the planet is much different from the material globe. The material globe is right here about 1/49th of the whole. And he seems to be suggesting that at mastership, a lot more sources within our planet are available. I mean, the masters don't talk to us about all they can do. It's just way beyond our comprehension. I mean, it must be really like talking to kindergarten. I was thinking about the wonderful letters that Master D.K. wrote to his 50-some students, personal letters. Very rare thing, really, to do that. And I was thinking about how he had to deal with things that are, well, just for him, almost childish things, and how much patience he had in doing that. So maybe when we're in a similar position, we will also learn. Sometimes, some of us are involved in esoteric schools where we have to write to our students. Of course, the difference between us and our students is like this, and between a master and the student is like that. But, patience is advised. We may have passed through some of the things that they have passed through, and therefore should be in a position to help them with their transition.
And sometimes they know more than we do.
Yep, that's right. You can get a student who is, you are the guide, but really, in terms of the age of the soul, they may be more there than you. Well, when Alice Bailey said about that, said that they said, well, then by what authority can we write? This was in the Arcane School Secretarial Handbook, and she said, you can write on the basis of the authority of love, she said. So that's really worth considering. So, initiation 5 is called the revelation. It's not called the resurrection or anything like that. Freedom from blindness. Well, imagine, before that, somehow, the causal body is in many ways a blinding factor. It's a lot more extensive than what we have here in the personality, but still, it has to be destroyed too. And after the destruction of the causal body, all of the debris, if you will, like a supernova, has to be dissipated because it's still kind of hanging around. And that debris, once it's dissipated, will give us freedom from blindness, and we can see ahead towards the way away from our planet and beyond the solar system. And where is the, Helena, where is the top that goes to that? Okay. You give your thumb drive to your wife, I know she's watching this, and the top is missing. Hey, okay. Okay, hopefully we will have it. So freedom from blindness as to what lies ahead. the 7 or 9 paths on the way of higher evolution become revealed at this point. Not that you yet know which you will take. It might take you 2,000 years to figure that out. It's very interesting. They say you have complete freedom of choice, and yet there's only one correct choice. And people have made mistakes. The Buddha made a mistake, apparently. The so-called sin of the Buddha. He chose the path of earth service because he was bound to humanity in such compassion, but it wasn't his path to choose, really. He was supposed to go, I understood, more to Sirius. And yet, well, wherever he goes now, he will expiate what DK says, his most understandable mistake, and take a different road, but maybe not to Sirius. We'll see what it is. So freedom from blindness, a liberation which enables the initiate to see a new vision, which is now more cosmic. It's not just a planetary vision. It's not even just a solar systemic vision. The vision concerns the reality lying beyond any hitherto sensed or known. So a true understanding of isolated unity is coming into the picture. What is isolated unity? Somehow in the consciousness, you isolate the wholeness. The wholeness is always seen no matter what other things within the wholeness are seen. Now, most of us, we see a lot of things. We come in touch with a lot of perceptions, and the sense of the wholeness is missing. But when isolated unity is achieved, the wholeness is always there, regardless of what the contents of consciousness may be. Everything you see, really, touch, smell, whatever, is all part of the contents of consciousness, and the wholeness never disappears. So reality beyond any hitherto sensed or known. You can understand, unveiling, unveiling, unveiling for trillions upon trillions upon trillions of years. We have no idea what the final unveilings will be. All we know is that we will wake up and discover that we are the universal logos, the one and only being in cosmos. It's a long way in terms of time to that point. Meanwhile, we're struggling here as extended emanations of the one. But that's another subject. To which, how is it possible? Have we knocked off the 5th initiation that quickly? I really, it's a Leo, it's a solar, really a solar initiation. It is solar transfiguration. You begin, the first real initiation is the 3rd. And that is the transfiguration in a planetary sense. The 5th initiation is the transfiguration in a solar sense. And you probably know this, but when it comes to Sirius, the 5th initiation is the first initiation. This is the first real Sirian initiation. You become an entered apprentice in the lodge of Sirius when you become a master. A humble entered apprentice in the Sirian lodge. I mean, with with so much that lies ahead, you kind of wonder what it is in the human being that wants to just shut down and not consider these things. It's just fear, maybe, I suspect. Fear of too great possibilities, too great a space. So we have to help people not become afraid of the incredibly vast possibilities that lie ahead, but to welcome those things. And, you say, well, everybody should be happy about it, but they're not. They're just intimidated by the possibilities. And we have to somehow convey to them that it's a very joyous thing. It's not infinity, but it's vast. It's vast.
Becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Yeah, your range, or what do they call it, your comfort zone. If you stay in your comfort zone, you're a dead duck. It's just not. The comfort zone is always a ring past knot which has to be broken. And even the universal logos, which is the one and only being in any particular cosmos. That ring pass knot has to be broken in order to return to the absoluteness, which is the absolute infinity. See, and that's always there. Well, those get into philosophical things, but every temple must be destroyed. That's the old saying. As beautiful as the temple is, as wonderful it is, no matter how much it has served you, comes the day when you have to outgrow it. And the whole universe is a temple. And this vast universe, we don't know how vast, is the temple of the universal Logos, who is just, how can you measure what that great being is compared to absolute infinity? And one day it has to be destroyed. And it will be, cyclically, forever, as it ever has been. And we've been through it all. Sometimes I lose something around the house. Can't find it. And I say to myself, well, I have lost many universes, so perhaps this is not all that big a deal. Putting things in perspective. Okay, so the fifth initiation, mastership. A lot of masters don't work with human beings at all. They work with different kingdoms, and we know quite a few of the ones that work with the human race on our planet. And of course there are masters on all these other planets too, and they have their own schemes of life, own types of advanced lives. And DK hints at this. He talks about the schools on other planets. He says, like on Mars, there's this school. They wear red robes and they carry ebony wands. And it's called the School for Destroyers. Okay, it doesn't sound so pleasant, but a lot of people on our planet are influenced by that school. And that's just their way of being, And, here's the school on Venus. This is the school with 5 strict grades, As a matter of fact, if you've never seen where the schools are, it's really worth, let's see, where am I here? It's really worth taking a look at that, because right at the end of esoteric astrology, so I always go to esoteric healing and then go backwards, here are the schools. School for warriors, Venus, the school with 5 strict grades. Mercury, the pupils of this school are called the sons of aspiration, or the points of yellow light, you see. So, and we are called adjudicators between the pairs of opposites. This is Earth school. And we have to learn how to discriminate between soul and personality, between spiritual and material. So that's where we are tested out to see whether we do this. Vulcan, the school of fiery stones. See, every planetary scheme has its own kind of lives and its own kind of tests. Here's Uranus, the school of magic, the planet of the violet force, and its graduates wield the power of cosmic etheric prana. That means Buddhic, Atmic, Monadic, and Logoic. Those are the cosmic ethers and the prana that goes with that. He didn't give all the schools. Some of the schools are not given. I think Saturn is not given and Pluto is not given. And this all has to do with what is the soul ray of these planets, what is the monadic ray of these planets, on Earth, what is our monadic ray? We have a third ray personality, right? But we have a second ray soul, don't we? What's our monadic ray on Earth? First ray. First ray. That's why nature is red in tooth and claw, as it is said, So this is a very tough school. It's the hospital of the solar system, and it's for those who are a bit behind schedule. So we're undergoing kind of forcing process through form. How do we get here? It's hard to say. We all came from different places. Some of us are monads from Jupiter or Venus or Mercury. Like for instance, you look at someone like Master DK, he looks very much a Mercurian monad. Maybe Master Cage, more a Venusian monad of the Christ, you know. The Buddha, Mercury, definitely. Mercurian monad, see. And maybe others from different places. And we have our particular learning experience in this semi-permanent school, because our Earth doesn't last throughout the whole solar system, and others do. Other planets do. So all this is going on, and without someone like Master DK, we wouldn't know anything about it. See, the revelation comes, they decide, well, shouldn't we bring the wisdom closer to humanity? Oh, no. Yeah, well, granted, okay? So they bring the wisdom closer to humanity, and we can know something about what's really going on behind the scenes. What a gift it is, right? Anyway, right at the end of esoteric astrology, here is the story of the different planetary schools. And, you know, you may be returning to such a school at a certain point. Because when you leave the Earth and you're on the way to various constellations along the way of the higher evolution, you have to make a planetary stop first. You're not quite ready for the stars just yet. You have to be re-educated, whether it's on Jupiter or Venus or Mercury or whatever. Re-education must occur, and it will take a while. Okay. How long does a solar system last like ours? A solar system, according to the ancient Brahmanical chronology, you know, not only on the outer level, but on the inner level, a long time, right? 311 trillion, 40 billion years. Now, that's not bad when a lot of scientists think that the whole universe itself just lasts 15 billion years. Something, you know, we have a problem there. There's a whole lot more zeros in occultism than there are in conventional science. But then, of course, they're not taking into consideration the inner worlds where duration is operative. Okay. So, sixth initiation, free choice. It's ruled by the third ray. It's ruled by Saturn. The sign Libra is very, very important. The sign Sagittarius is very important. I'm going to go into all this when we have our astrology meeting. But you know, you want to take a long trip, you want to go somewhere, Sagittarius may be involved, pointing you make your Libran choice, and you head out on your Sagittarian path, and it's going to take a long time to get there. And your destination is one of the great constellations. And finally, the Pleiades, which is the hub of the wheel. And that's just the beginning. I mean, you know, if you think about all the galactic possibilities and beyond, we're just emerging from ignorance. And big possibilities lie ahead. As DK once said, don't you think there are a few things that might interest us rather than just taking care of you? Something like that. You know, but we are so, what can I say, a little bit self-centered, anthropocentric, a little human-centered. We think that that's what the Master is just longing to do, to just take care of us, you know. And we're even told that the solar angel finds it a little bit distasteful dealing with the supervision of its personality. But, you know, we're so self-centered. Oh, well, the solar angel's taking care of me, and that's what they really want to do because I'm so special. Okay, well, we have to learn something different about that. To achieve the sixth initiation, the adept has to take a very intensive course in planetary occultism. Now, I suppose it's going to make the Arcane School and the Moria Federation look like easy stuff. Intensive course that a master takes in planetary occultism. All the hidden laws and rules and factors. A master wields the law in the three worlds, meaning he's not subject to it, he's the boss of the law. He makes the law happen, he's identified with the law, whilst the Chohan of the sixth initiation wields the law in the chain on all levels, additional 4 levels. So you know how it is when you progress in your next job, you have greater responsibility, and a Chohanship is very great responsibility. Some of the masters that we work closest with are actually Chohans. Master Mori is, Master Kuthumi is, Paul the Venetian is. Master Serapis of the fourth ray ashram, he's a Chohan. Master Hilarion is a Chohan on the fifth ray. His real monadic ray is the first, but his submonadic ray is the fifth. Then there's the Chohan Jesus. He's a Chohan. And then there's an unnamed master on the seventh ray. Some people claim to know who and what he is, but and they give him the name John or something like that, but I don't know. He's so far the unnamed Chohan. And they work closely with us. They're the head of a whole ashram. In other words, like Master DK, he might rule over 1/7 of an ashram, or maybe over the Brahmic aspect of the second ray ashram, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then Master KH over the general ray 2 part of the second ray ashram, the whole thing. And there'll be some austere first ray type of second ray master who rules over 2 sub 1, like the Buddha, that kind of thing. Well, the Buddha has gone beyond it. At the sixth initiation, the expression of this existence on an intermediate plane, a being who must at present remain nameless, wields the rod of initiation and administers the oath and the secret. In other words, it's not Sanat Kumara anymore. It's a different emanation of the planetary logos, and he won't say who it is. I suspect that whereas Sanat Kumara is a kind of temporarily a globe lord, I suspect that this is a chain lord that administers the sixth initiation. Of course, it's not done in the usual kind of ceremonies that we may know anything about. The strictly ceremonial aspect of the initiations are more like initiation 1, 2, and 3. Okay, initiation 6 is called the decision. It gives us freedom of choice. Excuse me. Freedom of choice. This concerns the choice of the original 7 paths on the way of higher evolution and now the 9 paths. Now, we can say right now, oh, I know I'm going to take that path or this path. But we have no idea at this point what our real perception at that time will be. Because we'll be restored to our full mastership consciousness, and we'll know where we came from, more or less. And basically, where we came from is where we're supposed to go. Now, it's kind of interesting. You have complete freedom of choice, but the line of your descent as a monad, even before you hit this solar system, is the path along which you are to retrace your steps. So we can fondly say, well, I know I'm going to be a solar logos, or I'm going to be a ray lord, or something like that. But let's be patient and see what higher wisdom will reveal to us at a certain time. A lot of people say about this stuff, well, all this is well and good, but it's so up there in the sky, and of what use is it to anybody, all these views ahead? But I would just say this, where there's no vision, the people perish. And where there's this extensive vision of wonderful possibilities, the people get enthused, they get a little bit excited, and they have a different attitude towards their living. So I never hesitate to talk about these things to people, even if they don't want to hear it, But I'm perfectly happy to share these things with people. Okay, that's the 6th initiation, and it involves the 7 paths, or now the 9 paths, 2 of which are not disclosed yet. But I think Atlas and Cleone are involved in that. Also, who is it that goes on these paths? Who travels? See? Who's the voyager on these paths? Well, it's not your personality, is it? Not your soul, is it? See? It's you as a spirit, as a monad, as a liberated monad, who is traveling on these paths. You know, you've got a monadic body on the sixth plane, but there's going to be a time when that temple breaks also. The temple of Ezekiel will also be broken, just like the temple of Solomon was broken at the fourth initiation. And then who are you? You are the liberated, volatile essence, the heart of the monad, and that's the way you travel on these paths. And, you know, he says the fourth path is a wonderful path, and you get to dance quite a bit on that path. Blissful dancing points of fanatical devotion. Sounds good, you know. All right. Any questions about the fifth or sixth initiation? As far ahead as they may loom. I mean, it's like, you know, here we are on the, I don't know, we're all sitting together on the anthill discussing what it might be like to graduate from an Ivy League university as a human, far ahead. But the amazing thing is that we are all absolutely integral to the whole. You can't remove yourself from the whole, and you are irreplaceable and irremovable. You cannot be extinguished, and you cannot be removed, and you are absolutely indispensable to the whole. Because you are the whole, but you know. That's something people don't say, well, I live, I die, I've forgotten. But what? What is forgotten? Not the real being. The real being is there forever. Never were you born, never shall you die. That's like forever, you know, and without beginning and without end. Meanwhile, we're having a grand old time creating universes, or should I say, becoming universes. That's what we're busy doing. Any questions about this initiation? Obviously, there's more to be said here, but we want to get into the ceremonial aspects of these initiations, and really mostly not the higher ones, you know, just from 1 to 3, basically. 7th, yes.
Just one last question. On the fifth, you said it was related to synthesis.
A kind of synthesis, yes. Synthesis of sight and relief from blindness. You've been blinded by individuality, but now your causal body breaks, and all the debris gets blown away, and you see reality, the synthesis of reality for the first time in its own level. Now, let's not imagine that we see things the way a planetary logos can see things, or the way a solar logos. They're much higher up on the emanative chain, you know. The galactic logos has a totally different view of what the cosmos is than we as a fifth degree master have. We're just beginning. We're just kid stuff, you know. But at least we see the whole, isolated unity. We see and know the wholeness. Not in all of its intricate detail, but we just can never, after that, be separated from the whole. Cannot. It's a liberation into perceived and being wholeness, to me. In many ways to describe synthesis, you know. But the idea is all parts are parts of each other, and you cannot separate any part from the whole. It's all the, whatever individual part seems to be, it is actually the whole. I've often said that the tiniest atom contains all of absolute infinity. I mean, what? You know, it seems like crazy. But remember, we have to remember that the absolute is not divisible. It can't be divided. And so therefore parts are illusions. And the apparent part is everything. And that, you know, you can ponder on that a long time, and you realize that you're always in the presence of the one and only. it's an interesting, ponder on it and live with it, and before you know it, it's all God, or whatever you want to call it. Reality, God, absoluteness, whatever you want to call it. Okay, now we get into that level of such a being as the Christ and the Buddha. Neither one of them has completed the seventh initiation. Apparently it lasts quite a long time. The Christ began his seventh initiation back 2,000 years ago. He reached the climaxing point in it around 1943. He won't pass with the Buddha before the Lord of the world until the end of the Aquarian age. It's a 4,000-year process. So, like we sometimes think, we'll take initiation 2 and 3 in the same life, or 3 and 4 in the same life. But yes, those are short-term things. But these big initiations, they really span many, many Earth years. So a Chohan of the seventh initiation wields the law in the solar system. Now we've gone, I don't know, did you say that something wielded the law in the planetary scheme as a whole, or the planetary chain as a whole? It seemed we may have forgotten somehow the scheme. But anyway, wields the law in the solar system. How far in the solar system, we don't know. But the Christ, becoming a seventh degree initiate, is becoming a solar systemic being, even though it's right here on Earth. And the sun is very, very important in this seventh initiation. It is a second ray initiation. And our solar system is a love-wisdom solar system. The soul ray of our solar logos is the second ray. The personality ray of our solar logos now is the second ray. And in the future, probably the monadic ray of our solar logos will be discovered to be the second ray, transitioning from the fourth ray. So we're really in the middle of a big heart center, even though on Earth it's easy to forget it, But we are units of love, basically. Love and wisdom. No matter what planet we're on, basically we are that. At the seventh initiation, I'm sorry. At the seventh initiation, the one of whom Sanat Kumara is the manifestation, the logos of our scheme becomes the Hierophant. So Sanat Kumara is an emanation of our planetary logos. He is not the entirety of our planetary logos, but he is a specific sending forth of the logos. Of course, any emanation really is what sent it forth. That's why I say, if you're a tiny emanation of the monad, you are the monad, essentially, even though from the point of view of your perception, you don't find it to be so. Ultimately, we are all emanations, but we're ultimately the emanation of the universal logos. We are the universal logos, but our consciousness is so, confined that we've forgotten it all. Now, as we ascend on the emanative stream, more and more comes back, and we recognize what we really are. So Sanat Kumara at the fifth initiation, an unknown existence at the sixth initiation, and the planetary logos himself, the Hierophant, at the seventh initiation. And you become, at that point, really a solar systemic being. And it's even said of the Christ that right now, he is a Syrian being. Well, he's a transfigured being in the system of Sirius, because he's been taking the seventh initiation. Now, all these things, they're good for incentive. Not that we're going to really understand all this, but they just give you that sense of what's possible. And then you don't get caught up with a lot of lesser things. And your lower desires, you don't bother with it, because these other things are really looming ahead as realities. You detach from the lower things. That's called sacrifice. And of course it makes us better. When have we ever become this? Through sacrifice. Initiation 7, the resurrection. in a way above and out of the cosmic physical plane. Freedom from the hold of the phenomenal life of the 7 planes of our planetary life. And for some of those, for us, what an objective it is to go to the 6th to 7th plane. Wow, we're not worried about being free from it, we just want to get there. But for this type of initiate, they are in the presence of these amazing energies, but they're not compelled by those energies. They can begin to wield those energies and are not trapped or ensnared by even the energies of the monad or the energies of the sea of fire on the 7th level. It's all increasing freedom, all the way increasing freedom. Freedom from ever more subtle forms. But first we have to be introduced to the forms. They look just fine, but then you outgrow them. And then you want ever more freedom. And when you finally re-become the one and only Logos in this whole system, this whole vast cosmos, you want to outgrow that too, because it's a tremendous limitation. This huge being that contains everything in the universe is like a little infinitesimal. It's a tremendous limitation compared to the ultimate reality, which we always have been, and we just have to remember. We've been through it all, we are it all, and I suppose we review it all at the end of a particular solar universe, and we look at all the many ways that we have manifested. Because it's not like I'm going to be more me than you. I mean, there's one being that is it all, so we're not going to say, oh yeah, I identify with that one because that's who I was. No, you were all of them. Anyway, that's a little bit of a departure. So it's called the resurrection, freedom from the hold of the phenomenal life of the 7 planes. That means the life of very refined matter on all the planes of the cosmic physical plane. And it is in reality a lifting out of or above the cosmic physical plane. Now you still have contact with the cosmic physical plane. It's not until the 9th initiation that you say no. That's called the refusal. And then you're off doing whatever you do on the cosmic astral plane. But there's still work to be done, even though you're not trapped by the phenomena of the cosmic physical plane. The Christ will be in that position, so will the Buddha. They will have work here. They won't necessarily go to the cosmic astral plane immediately. They will have work, but they won't be trapped by what they work in the middle of, which is probably the highest states we can possibly imagine. We'd love to be trapped by that. But, step-by-step gradualism, sequence, it doesn't happen all at once, and of course, yet it does. I mean, really it happens all at once, and in terms of our consciousness, it happens sequentially. Okay, so lifting out of or above the cosmic physical plane, you become a liberated Buddha, is what it's called, or a high Chohan of the 7th degree. Okay. Well, I think Tuya and I didn't go any farther than the 7th initiation. There are others, the 8th and 9th, the transition and the refusal, when all the 4 rays of attribute get involved in the transition. What I think it is the transition to the cosmic astral plane. And you actually begin to work on the cosmic astral plane. The Christ can contact it now, you see. The Buddha, the Tibetan apparently not so much. But the Christ can contact the cosmic astral plane, so can the Buddha. But then the transition is you really start to work there quite a bit. And then the refusal is you stay there. And you don't come back to the cosmic physical plane, which holds the highest possibilities for people like ourselves. So you know what I mean? You can begin to say, oh, boy, that's a long trip. But remember, you've done it forever. And how many universes have you been? Notice I didn't say have, I said been. How many? Countless. Infinitudinous universes you have been. Forever. Forever. So it's a big picture. This is the big picture stuff. And meanwhile, we try to have our ceremonies to get us in touch with the energies which open the doors to these higher realms. Because we don't want to just be content, sitting here in our usual rotary motion kind of thing, where we're always repeating the same thing, and here we are. We really want to grow, and that's what initiation is all about, entering into something new for us, okay. In a way, you're already there. But in terms of this immersed monad, you're not there in consciousness, and we want to go back to that and be there in consciousness. All right, any questions now that we've knocked off the 5th, 6th, and 7th initiations? It is, of course, but where would we know about these things? And of course, it doesn't stop. The planetary logos is on the path of cosmic initiation, and he's only taken the first. The sacred planetary logoi have taken the second. A star, like our sun, is working on taking the third cosmic initiation. And on it goes. Always entry into a new field of possibility. So, I suppose it should induce a little bit of optimism in our life. Know what I mean? Things can look pretty bad. You lose your money, you lose your relationships, you lose your health, but then what do you really lose? Is it possible to lose anything? And basically in esoteric psychology too, he tells us it's not possible to lose anything. All is restored, only on a higher turn of the spiral. So it's a very optimistic point of view, and I can almost talk myself into being in a good mood when I start to consider these matters. Now, I just want to make sure that see, we're going to be entering a new area, and I want to make sure you have time for it. There's a lot of information here. The destruction of the lotus and all of that, but let's suffice it to say that the lotus is destroyed and the limitation that it represents is destroyed. Right now, it's our temple, the temple of the higher power, the temple of the solar angel. It's a fantastic, beautiful area on the higher mental plane where all the virtues we have accumulated are found. And we can live in that, and we can be that, you see, instead of being our kind of lower personality self at times, But even that is a limitation. So we're on our way, people like you and me, we're on our way to being able to live in the temple. That'd be good enough. Live in the temple, express the beauty of all the different petals and the colors and the sounds and the rays and the astrology that's there. Do it the right way and, improve the plan. But the name of the game, like Master Moria said when he was King Solomon, this too shall pass. He was asked, tell me something that will be true at all times in all places. And he thought for a minute and he says, this too shall pass. Of course, it didn't start with him. It's an ancient idea. So we always will outgrow whatever excellent thing we enter into. We always will. But first, before outgrowing it, we have to use it. And that's what people like us are trying to do. We're trying to enter into our own temple. Here we have Lotus Temple, a symbol of what we are trying to do, with all of our virtues here, and we try to express that for humanity and in the midst of humanity. The high energies we try to express. And then when the time comes that we really outgrow it, we will be given the method of going into the next larger ring pass knot, and the next, until you reach the universal ring pass knot, which also must be destroyed as ever it has been. And then comes the fun, that's being restored to your absolute nature, And of course, we can't even speculate about what that would be, but we just know that limitation no longer exists of any kind. The universe, however beautiful it is a temple and is a limitation. Going beyond that comes the limitless, the boundless, immutable principle of the secret doctrine. Boundless, immutable, never changes. Principle, first thing, first and only thing of the secret doctrine. Okay, any questions? Excuse me. So now in the initiation ceremony itself, there are 5 stages of the initiation ceremony. And I want to maybe start where that is. I mean, the geometry stays more or less the same, but different personnel enters into it. You know, you may be dealing with masters at one initiation. You may be dealing with Buddhas of activity at another initiation. You may be dealing with esoteric Kumaras at another initiation. The geometry stays the same. Here is the Hierophant. Here is the triangle made with the Hierophant. And then inside that triangle are your 2 sponsors and you. So there's 6 points in all of this, as far as I can understand right now. And that stays more or less the same. And the energy is transmitted along those lines of the triangles. And eventually you get about as much energy as you can stand. Obviously, they're not going to dump the whole thing on you because all the form that you've created would be destroyed. So it's very co-measured, very precise. So this is all about at the time of the initiation ceremony, and I think I'm not going to IHS. There's a lot here, but I want to make sure that we do the most important things. And maybe 2 of you will go over that with you. Sponsors. See some of the shows you here the initiator and the Manu and a Shohan on your ray, and maybe here it looks like there could even be 7 points. I have to study that more carefully, but the silent watcher is there, and these others form the triangle. And then here are your 2 sponsors, and here's you. So some of the geometry I have to study more carefully. Suffice it to say, it will be taken care of. And as it advances, you don't just have the Bodhisattva, the Manu, and the Shohan. That's pretty good. But you have the exoteric Buddhas of activity, and the Lord of the world, and then the silent watcher is there, who is the planetary logos. These are various exoteric Buddhas, and let's see if there's more. Planetary logos, an esoteric Kumara, another esoteric Kumara. And who is the silent watcher? Well, maybe next year we will, because, you know, you want to know who's there with you in the chamber. You don't want to, you have to prove. Okay. You know, here, the esoteric Kumaras, you've heard of the Buddhas of activity, right? They surround Sanat Kumara. But those Buddhas of activity are exoteric Kumaras. There are 3 above them who don't show their face, and they are called the esoteric Kumaras, or the esoteric Buddhas. And they basically, it's a revolving system, because the Buddhas of activity can become esoteric Kumaras, and the esoteric Kumaras come out and become exoteric. So around Sanat Kumara are 6 Kumaras, and they are in the height of Shambhala. And they are part of the higher initiation process. when you go through the very highest degrees. But right now, you know, we're not talking about that. We're talking about simply the Christ, a couple of masters to sponsor you, various members of the hierarchy, and so forth. The Lodge does a lot of wonderful things to provide the energy that we need in order to take the next step. And really, we would have to study that very carefully in initiation, human and solar. These things seem to be what they do. They know how to lift the candidate to the next step. And even in today's Masonic lodges, you have one initiate going through, and the whole lodge is basically taking care of that one initiate to help that initiate rise. Now, when I went through Masonry in the early days, there would be like 3 of us going through because the initiation schedule was too busy for just one person to go through. So we had 3, maybe sometimes 5, usually 3. But DK says, but this is telling us what will be happening. More and more groups will be presented before the initiator. And it may be 3, it may be 5, maybe 7, usually odd numbers. And that's the new theme of passing through together as a group. And if we don't do that, he tells us that the time and space schedule of our planetary logos could not be completed. We need group initiation to complete the schedule that our planetary logos is on. So, in Aquarian age, we're going to get used to that. Go passing through together, receiving together the fiery accolade, and going forth into group usefulness together. Yeah, these are some marvelous. The higher you go, the less they name the beings who are involved. When we go back, familiar to us, we think the Bodhisattva, the Manu, the Raytut Chohan, the Maha Chohan. These are familiar characters, only because they've been written about. They're not really familiar. We're not on personal terms with Master M or KH and say, how you doing today? But these at least are names we know about, you see. But the higher you go, the more obscure it becomes, and your sponsors and the triangles surrounding you become comprised of more remote figures in the hierarchy, much higher initiates. And what it really shows is that everybody cares about everybody else. Why should they bother? But it's called the chain of hierarchy, you see. And the higher ones care about lifting the lower ones. So it's the old, I forget which hand goes up, but I forget, but I think you hold on to the one above, the other hand you hold on to the one below. That's called the chain of hierarchy. And they do that. They are always supported by the one above, and they are always lifting the one below. And this is the whole geometrical system of how they do that, letting you into that next concentric circle towards the center, you see. You start in the periphery, and you go in, and every circle is guarded. You have to know how to knock. You have to know how to get in. And you enter blind, mostly blindfolded. You don't know what's there. And eventually the blindfold is taken off, and you know the new world of energy that you have entered into, and you become an initiate in that next sphere, and the next, and the next, and the next, until finally you reach the center. And when is that? At the very center of the whole thing is the universal logos eventually. Meanwhile, we have all these concentric circles as we go in and in and in. So I won't deal with this too much, although Tui has done a really beautiful job putting it there. But I think what we have to be able to do is the ceremonies themselves. Now we can start this. Obviously, we have lunch coming up in less than an hour, but at least we will look at these 5 aspects of the initiation ceremony, which you are going to pass through imaginatively in the ritual that Tuya will direct you in. And of course 5 is quite an interesting number, because, you know, he says about the 5th ray, the power to take initiation. And the 5th ray is when you encounter Sanat Kumara for the first time. It's the 5th ray that rules the 3rd initiation, where you meet Sanat Kumara the first time as a 5-pointed star. He shows up as a 5-pointed star. So this number 5, a very Venus number, is the appropriate number for taking the true initiations, which begin at the 3rd initiation. Before that, it's the threshold of real initiation. So in this, in the stages of initiation, the presence is revealed. What do we mean by the presence? Well, we'll look at that. The presence is going to be the way in which the solar angel shows itself. The solar angel is this august presence behind all we do. Now, there's many ways we can define the word presence, but we'll stay with what DK says about how it is you see your higher self. Then the second stage of vision is seen. Now, it is a dual vision. It's a vision of tremendous possibilities which lie before you and what you can acquire before the next initiation, but it's also a vision of just what you have to do in a practical sense. What is your assignment in the world in order to make all of this truly practical? And an initiate is practical, really working in the world. Look, there's Father Damien. He's a 4th degree initiate. He's taking the 4th initiation. He's working in the most concrete, material, difficult circumstances. He was even involved in hollowing out sections of the floor of the church that he built, so that the people who had lost their legs to leprosy and just had stumps or wooden stumps could actually have a place to be, to sit, to attend. The stump went in what he hollowed out. See, that practical, so that they could participate. Very, if you think about it, just so concrete, really. And Capricorn is a huge sign of concreteness, isn't it? I mean, it's very high in one way, and it's really down to earth in another way. So we're not going to just escape into the clouds on this path of initiation. That would be kind of a glamour, So anyway, the vision is seen. Then comes the application of the appropriate rod, wielded by the initiator, whether it's the Christ or Sanat Kumara. And what will happen is that the bodies will be affected. The chakras will be affected, depending upon what initiation it is. And your causal body will also be affected. Then comes the administration of the oath, because there's no way that you're allowed really to receive the secret and the word and the new powers assigned to this initiation unless you swear you will guard them. I know a lot of people say, I don't like to take oaths, I don't want to commit myself. Why are you forcing me to do this? It just shows an unreadiness, that's all. Of course, it's pretty interesting. He says, very rarely is an oath of initiation broken. Very rarely. And since Sanat Kumara knows everything on this planet, either the person will be struck dumb or killed before the revelation comes. So, the oaths are, the oaths are pretty severe. Even in Masonry, they're quite severe. And there have been some instances where Masons have tried to apply those penalties to those who were breaking their Masonic oaths. But all that was intended to be symbolic, really. So that was an abuse as well. See, the outer Masonry, or the outer initiatory work, is simply symbolic. It's not like what absolutely goes on the inner level. It just gives you the frame of thought so you can understand what awaits you in the inner worlds. And then finally, the fifth is the giving of the secret. The secret for that degree. Now, in Initiation Human and Solar, so much is given about this. We can't do all that, but but if you have the possibility of a study group where you live, this is a great book to study together. It's a wonderful book. And the Word is of the soul, and it is given appropriate to the degree that you are taking. This is what you're going to kind of imaginatively work with in the ceremony that Tuya is creating for you. Okay. So let's take a look at some of this. Not all of it, because we can't. I mean, I wish it were possible for us to really study Initiation Human and Solar here over a period of a month, every day. But, it's not possible. Okay, so the points will be given in order, in due order. It must be remembered that this order is not idly arranged. It's scientific, and carries the initiate on from revelation to revelation until the culminating stage of the process, where is committed to him one of the secrets and one of the 5 words of power. The old saying, a word to the wise is sufficient. It doesn't only mean that if you say one single word, they'll get the rest of the idea. It is that too, but a word carries power. If you know the name of an entity, the name of an inner entity, you have a contact with that entity and can be filled with the energy of that entity. So it said the masters, do they know that Sanat Kumar? That's not the real name of that entity. And the masters only know a few syllables of the sevenfold name. A few letters, a few syllables. Because to know the whole name is like an invocation of that kind of power. So this is occultism, and we are really dealing with powers and how they should be applied. All that is aimed at here is to indicate the 5 main divisions into which the initiation ceremony naturally divides itself. The student must bear in mind that each of these 5 stages is in itself a complete ceremony and capable of detailed division, which he kind of does. I mean, the difference between pretenders who say, I'm channeling the master, and the real thing, the devil is in the detail. And when the master can give you in explicit, clear, logical language what actually occurs on all these levels, you know who's writing, and then you know who's pretending. So people have to get over that pretending stuff and just listen up, really. All right, so the presence. Let us now take up the various points, dwelling briefly upon each, and remembering that words but limit and confine the true meaning. DK is always fighting the battle of words. He said that he has put so many words together in his various teachings through Blavatsky and through Alice Bailey that one day he will have to liberate all those little lives. He must set them free, you see. Right now they're bound into certain forms. The revelation of the presence. Well, I think that for all of us, the idea of presence is a, a common thought. Maybe the experience is not so common, but something's there that you are detecting and that maybe a lot of people are not detecting. It's hidden from the normal sight. It's real, and it's of a higher spiritual caliber than what you normally see, the presence. Matter of fact, the Jesuits, I think, who had many good spiritual practices, they would always practice the technique of the presence. In other words, detect God in all things. And it seems like an old spiritual practice, but this presence is there, whatever you call it, being, God, reality. It's always underlying what we normally call reality. It's a deeper reality. But we have to practice that. Otherwise, we just overlook it and just live. Always there's something, the poet says, far more deeply interfused, the presence. Okay. So it is at the third and the fourth initiation and the fifth that he, the candidate for initiation, becomes aware also of that presence, which enfolds even the spiritual entity, his own monad. See, there are all this ladder of presences. Each is more subtle, and each is more inclusive. The monad, as far as we're concerned, is like the ultimate presence. But what unfolds the monad? And what unfolds that which enfolds the monad? And on and on and on. It's like those Chinese dolls, or Russian dolls, within, always going to be a more exalted presence. He sees his monad as one with the planetary logos. And through the channel of his own monad, he sees the self-same aspects which that monad embodies on a wider scale. And the planetary logos, who ensouls all the monads on his ray, is thus revealed in the solar system, and then finally you're going to reach the solar logos and beyond. DK tells us, okay, this truth is well nigh impossible to express in words. I always like it when he says that, I feel a sense of relief. And concerns the relation of the electrical point of fire, which is the monad, to the five-pointed star, who is the planetary logos, which reveals the presence of the planetary logos to the initiate. The star flashes forth. You don't get to see the eye, you don't get to see face to face, but you get the star. And what is the relation of you, who are the electric spark, to that five-pointed star that includes you? At these higher initiations, this is what is seen. This is practically incomprehensible to the average man for whom this book is written. And when I think that he's writing this book for the average man, I wonder who the average man is. He says, I've written this for the public. Whoa, okay. When you realize what's in here, what's packed into this book, who is the public? Anyway, that was a high type of presence. The revelation of the presence. There comes a moment in his existence when the man stands consciously face to face with his real self and knows himself to be that self in reality and not just theoretically. Now this would be, in a way, your higher egoic nature and the solar angel who infuses your higher egoic nature. Remember, you can still have an egoic lotus without a solar angel. This is interesting. The solar angel helps in the creation of the egoic lotus and all that. But there are many who are individualized elsewhere, and they have the egoic lotus without the presence of the solar angel. But it's more like God in you. It's like God immanent. He becomes aware of God, of the God within, not through the sense of hearing or through attention to the inner voice, directing and controlling, called the voice of conscience. We all, sometimes our little voice speaks, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, or you should be doing that. That's real. That's the voice of the soul. Okay, but there's a bigger type of revelation coming in here. This time the recognition is through sight and direct vision. You see it in the initiation. Your solar angel is participating in your initiation ceremony, and you see it. He now responds not only to that which is heard, but also to that which he sees. You know how it goes? Hearing first, touch next, sight third. Then comes taste, then comes smell. Two much higher senses in a spiritual sense. So sight is what we're talking about here. When you really know something, really know it. Don't just have to feel it. Don't just have to hear about it. You see it, you know it. So the presence is revealed, your higher self is revealed in the chamber of initiation. Okay. And what does it look like? The recognition by the initiate is the first great step in the initiation ceremony. You recognize your higher self. And until it has transpired, all the other stages have to wait. There's been a guide. You've had an angel. You've had a higher power. You've had a supervising deity. It's there all the time. In the initiation ceremony, you see it. Not just kind of feel it, not just kind of hear it. You see it. And that's a new ballgame, you know. So that which is recognized differs at the different initiations and might be roughly summarized as in the following way. The ego, the reflection of the monad, so that's your soul nature, the reflection of the monad, is itself, in itself, a triplicity, as is all else in nature, and reflects the three aspects of divinity, just as the monad reflects on a higher plane the three aspects. You know how it is here. Here's the monad. Let's just say it's called. Come on, there it is. Will, wisdom, and activity. The three aspects. The monad is threefold. The real monad is in the center of it all. That's the divine spark, the electric flame, and it has its threefold aspects: will, wisdom, and activity. And then here's a threefold nature as well: spiritual will, spiritual perception, and spiritual mind, for the spiritual triad. And then down in the soul level as well, we have sacrifice, love, and intelligence. Always, three are always showing up, okay? So, these are the triplicities. The monad reflects will, love, wisdom, and active intelligence of the deity. We all, we may emphasize one or the other, but we have to have them all. A person may be predominantly a will type, a director monad, but you've got to have love, and they've got to have intelligence. Or you could be a teacher monad, but you've got to have will, and you've got to have intelligence. You can be an intelligence monad, a manipulator, they call them, but you've got to have will, and you've got to have love, wisdom, too. Not necessarily in the same proportion, but you've got to have them. Okay. All right. Any questions? I know it's tough, to just kind of sit here and just kind of absorb this, I know that. But that's what you signed up for, whether you know it or not, you see. So there you are. The revelation of the presence. Therefore, presence in the ceremony of initiation, within your own causal sphere, the solar angel shows itself. At the first initiation, the initiate becomes aware of the third or lowest aspect of the ego, that of active intelligence. To know. That's at the very first initiation. People forget it. They don't know they've even taken the first initiation. They're out here on the outer plane. They don't know in their brain that they've seen any of this stuff, but they've seen it. And it drives them forward, continuing to fuel their aspiration on the path. He is brought face to face with that manifestation of the great solar angel who is himself the real self. He knows, now past all disturbance, I like that word, disturbance, that manifestation of intelligence is that eternal entity who has for ages past been demonstrating its powers on the physical plane through his successive incarnations. Ages. How long has the solar angel been with you? What do you think? A while. Been a while. Let's suppose you're one of those people that came in from the moon, okay? So then, maybe only about 12 million years, your solar angel has been with you. But if you were, for instance, individualized in Lemuria, then your solar angel has been with you for about 18 million years, maybe even 20 million years, 21. That's quite a relationship. Most marriages don't last that long. But that's a real, that is the divine marriage eventually, of course. That's what they call it. The marriage of the angel self with the personal self. So that's at the first initiation. At the second initiation, this great presence is seen as a duality, and another aspect shines forth before the candidate, you the candidate. He becomes aware that this radiant life, who is identified with himself, is not only intelligence in action, but is also love, wisdom in origin, and he merges his consciousness into that love, wisdom. He merges his consciousness into this life and becomes one with it, so that on the physical plane, through the medium of that personal self, that life, that inner presence, is seen as intelligent love expressing itself. Now some of us, heart of the sun, all that. Leo, heart of the sun, great second initiation. Some of us are reaching the point where the astral body is really going to express love, wisdom from the heart of the sun. Now, as to what the heart of the sun is, that's quite a question. There's all these different hearts of the sun. But finally, it is the egoic nature, the soul nature of the solar logos. But we also have for our planet a heart of the sun, and it's found on its own causal level. Now, what happens next? At the third, Tuya has put in here more than I put in here. Okay, so I'm just, that's why I have to ask, what happens next? Okay. At the third initiation, the ego stands before the initiate as a perfect triplicity. Not only is the self known to be intelligent, active love, but it is revealed also as a fundamental will or purpose. So that's how we grow. We first experience intelligence, we add love to it, and then we add will to it. And each initiation shows that our higher self is one or more of those factors. And the man immediately identifies himself with this and knows that the three worlds hold for him in the future nothing. He's just not interested, like the Buddha would say, If you're identified with what goes on in the world of phenomena, you're storing up misery for yourself. Disidentify from the world of phenomena. It holds nothing for him but the will to serve. The will to serve is a sphere for active service wrought out in love towards the accomplishment of a purpose, and I would say wrought out intelligently in love, which has been hid during the ages in the heart of the self. Finally, we get the purpose angle. The initiation reveals at the third degree the purpose, what it's all for, at least up to a certain extent. That purpose, being now revealed, can be intelligently cooperated with and thus matured. Okay, all this is going on in the inner planes, and when you come back to your body in the morning, whatever, a new orientation is taking place, new energies will be yours, new aspirations will be yours, and could be difficult, you could shake a little bit, it can stimulate the lower vehicles quite strongly, and you have to get all that under control, too. At the fourth initiation, the initiate is brought into the presence of that aspect of himself which is called his Father in heaven. So we're not really seeing the monad until this fourth degree. He is brought face to face with his own monad, that pure spiritual essence on the highest plane but one, meaning that this monad is found on the sixth plane, on the monadic level, not quite the logoic level. When it frees itself, it goes to the logoic level. That pure spiritual essence on the highest plane but one, which is to his ego or higher self what that ego is to the personality or lower self. That's the analogy. The monad is so high above the ego, just as the ego is high above the lower self. So, will. Now, you know, to pass through the crucifixion initiation, tremendous will is required, right? Not my will, but thine be done. And then again at the sixth degree, not my will, but thine be done. Even in a even higher sense, Christ in the Garden of Gethsemane, not my will, but thine be done. And of course, the Master Jesus had to be, or the initiate Jesus, had to be willing to pass through the horrors of the crucifixion and all of that. So will is really brought in here strongly. You may begin to feel the monad at the third degree, but here he's talking about face to face, whatever that means. Face to face with that part of oneself which is true being. Okay. At the fourth. Okay. I just want to see. Wow. Okay, I now see why Tuya wanted me to get on with it. She put in a bunch of different things here, which I thought to leave out, but which are nicely included. So, this monad has expressed itself on the mental plane through the ego in a triple fashion. You know, the sacrifice petals, the love petals, the knowledge petals. But now all aspects of the mind, as we understand it, are lacking. The normal mind is not there. It's going to be more intuitive, right? The solar angel, hitherto contacted, has withdrawn himself. And think about that. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? The withdrawal of the solar angel. But then, of course, what's left is the Father in heaven, which is even, in a way, more important for the man. And the form through which he functioned, the egoic or causal body, is gone. And naught is left but love, wisdom. This is the fourth degree. And that dynamic will, which is the prime characteristic of spirit. It's like Atma Buddhi, love, wisdom and love, and will. The lower self has served the purposes of the ego and has been discarded. The ego likewise, the egoic lotus, has served the purposes of the monad and is no longer required. The initiate stands free of both, fully liberated and able to contact the monad as earlier he learned to contact the ego. It was amusing to me, you know, Krishnamurti was a high initiate. He was going through the fourth initiation. But the masters weren't entirely happy with him. Not entirely, because he was like all arhats. He saw some new truth, and what he conveyed to the people was leading them away from the masters. You know, he was supposed to lead them to the masters, but he led them away. And one of the masters said, he speaks to people as if they were the monad. And I thought to myself, well, it's natural enough. When you read the beginning part of the Secret Doctrine, that's what it's all about. You're into these great abstract things. And then only a master can really boil it down and speak practically while still holding this realization of what the being really is. See, so practicality, you never get away from practicality, you know. In the beginning, the mountain. In the middle, no mountain. At the end, again, the mountain. You know, what do they say? In the beginning, chop wood, carry water. At the end, chop wood, carry water. So we can't escape the condensation of reality that we call the dense physical plane. Okay, so the initiate stands free. For the remainder of his appearances in the three worlds, he is governed only by will and purpose, self-initiated, and creates his own body of manifestation. You know, that's called the will-created body, the Kriya Shakti, the Maya Virupa, the vehicle of Maya that you create through your own mind. And usually it resembles the body in which you took the fifth initiation, because usually it's masters that do that. Creates his body of manifestation and thus controls, within karmic limits, his own times and seasons. He can come and go as he wishes to. He's not, you know, we don't know when we're going to die, when we're born. I mean, all of this is in the hands of higher powers. But at this stage, you can, I'm putting in an appearance here, I abstract my appearance here, it's under your control. Okay. The karma referred to as planetary karma, not the personal. He's mostly done with personal karma. At this fourth initiation, he contacts the love aspect of the monad. Will, love, wisdom, and activity. He contacts the love, wisdom, activity of the monad. Oh, he's taking us further. Okay. This is the different presences which are revealed at the different initiations. Now, you know, all right, it's fun. It's beyond us, but okay. It opens up possibilities. At the fifth, the will aspect, and thus completes his contacts, responds to all necessary vibrations, and is master on the 5 planes of human evolution. In other words, master is number 5. He's the 5-pointed star. That means he has control over Atma, Buddhi, Manas, astral, physical. But even more control, of course, over Manas, astral, and etheric physical. He's a little bit new to Atma and Buddhi. Okay. This is the presence. Sorry. At the 6th initiation, the initiate functioning consciously as the love aspect of the monad is brought via his father into a still vaster recognition and becomes aware of that star which encloses his planetary star. What would that be? The star that encloses his planetary star. Well, if you think of it, you know, the planets are like chakras in what? Like our Earth is the base of the spine chakra in something. Venus is the solar plexus chakra in something. Well, see, every planet becomes a chakra, right? Jupiter becomes kind of a heart center in something. So it's got to be the solar logos. That's the next star. And it includes all these other lesser planetary logi. So he becomes aware of that star which encloses his planetary star, just as that star has earlier been seen as enclosing his own tiny spark. We're all part of our planetary logos. We're a little spark in our planetary logos. But our planetary logos is a little something in a much greater star, and on and on and on it goes.
Once upon a time, Sri Aurobindo said you need to understand the soul as 3 different parts, and each is bigger than the other. Is that what this is referring to?
Well, I think what she was referring to is the triplicities in any divine manifestation. Will, wisdom, and activity. But in the center of the triangle is always the real life. See, this is interesting. Like, here's the monad. Well, is it a triangle? No, it's the point within the triangle. And the same thing. Look at the egoic lotus. The jewel in the lotus is the center of the life, and then you have the three aspects. It's always that way. There's going to be a three in any divine manifestation, and then always a center. And the center is life itself. It's the absolute life, always withdrawing, always withdrawing.
I think you said that there's the central fire, and then there's the sparks in the fire, and then there's the spark in you.
Well, that might be another way
To notice
of looking at the flame, you know, and the sparks.
to tell which is which,
Yes.
so that you don't have them confused.
Yes, and to be able to be which is which. This is it. This is about the science of being. We don't want to just study stuff, we want to be it. And there's a big difference in that. You know, we can carry, you know, the old saying that even a donkey can carry a library on his back. So we can carry much knowledge on our back, but have we assimilated it, and do we know we are it? That's another step. We can know about it, we can love it, or we can be it. And the being is the final step for us in that. So he thus makes his conscious contact with the solar logos at this sixth initiation, and realizes within himself the oneness of all life and manifestation. And we're on our way to doing that, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. But that's monadic realization. Remember, the monad is that which has its home within the sun. That's what he says. That which finds its home within the sun. So when we have real monadic consciousness, we're really getting into the solar logoic consciousness. At the seventh initiation, this recognition is extended so that two aspects of the one life become realities to the emancipated Buddha. Notice what he calls the seventh degree initiate, the emancipated Buddha. See, he has high names for the high initiates. So always we are being revealed some greater being which was hidden to us before is being revealed to us at each initiation. In the beginning, it's the solar angel. You know, well, maybe I hear my conscience, maybe I, hear a voice, maybe I feel an energy, but do I see the being? But in the chamber of initiation, we see the being, you see. And then there's always going to be something new, the monad, the planetary logos, the solar logos, the cosmic logos, the one about whom not may be said. Always something new will be revealed. Okay. Well, I think I can... Well, these are the ways that the solar angel is revealed in three forms. When you're in the initiation chamber, which is your own inner temple, as a radiant angelic existence. That must be very beautiful. This is seen by the inner eye with the same accuracy of vision and judgment as when a man stands face to face with another member of the human family. A radiant angelic existence. And I believe how it is through the heart of the solar angel is a connection to your brain. See, that's how that goes, I believe. The great solar angel who embodies the real man and is his expression on the plane of higher mind is literally his divine ancestor, his watcher. Well, I've been watching you for 12 million years. Okay, that's a long time. Who through the long cycles of incarnation has poured himself out in sacrifice in order that man might be. So solar angel also has things to do on his own high levels, and DK humorously says, don't always be importuning your solar angel. It too has its own things to do, but there it is supervising our life for the big things. Like when there's a real obstacle, it's aware of it. So a radiant angelic existence, also a sphere of radiant fire. That's how this inner presence in the initiation chamber can be revealed. Linked to the initiate standing before it by a magnetic thread of fire that passes through all his bodies and terminates in the center of the physical brain. So, from the solar angel to the man terminating the physical brain, the silver thread, it's sometimes called that, emanates from the heart center of the solar angel. Silver thread is just a name, maybe not even the best name, linking thus heart of the angel and brain of the man. The great duality manifesting in the solar system, love and intelligence. So our solar angel is really connected with us, definitely, right there in the brain, from its heart. Amazing thing. This fiery sphere is likewise linked with many others. Your group soul, right? And many others belonging to the same group and ray. So all of this is the inner management going on in the inner planes of rays and types. And thus it is a literal fact and demonstration that on the higher planes we are all one. It's demonstrated to us. Here we work hard to realize we're all one. There it is. Life pulsates and circulates through all via the fiery strands. This is part of the revelation which comes to the man who stands in the presence with his eyes occultly opened. And that happens at initiation. And that's the very first phase. The presence, the revelation of the presence, the first phase. So, a radiant angelic existence in a sphere of radiant fire, and finally, a many-tinted lotus of 9 petals. They're leaving out the inner 3 and the jewel. These petals are arranged in 3 circles around a central set of 3 closely folded petals, which shield what is called the jewel in the lotus. This lotus, which every one of us has, at our present stage of evolution, is a thing of rare beauty, pulsating with life and radiant with all the colors of the rainbow. And at the first 3 initiations, the 3 circles are revealed in order, more or less. Until at the 4th initiation, the initiate stands before a still greater revelation and learns the secret of that which lies within the central bud, the jewel in the lotus, surrounded by 3 translucent yellow Buddhic petals. The secret of the central bud is revealed to the 4th degree initiate. DK goes into this more in detail. They open up a little bit, one initiation after another. But right at the 4th initiation, they open up, reveal the blazing jewel in the lotus, only to have it all destroyed at that point. In this connection, the 3rd initiation differs somewhat from the other 2, inasmuch as through the power of a still more exalted Hierophant than the Bodhisattva, the electrical fire of pure spirit, latent in the heart of the lotus, is first contacted, but not necessarily seen. Remember, at the 4th degree, we see. Hence the eye. The eye is what observes you at the 4th initiation. Sight is a big thing. But you feel it at the 3rd initiation. So I think we're just about there. In these words, solar angel, sphere of fire, lotus, lies some aspect of the central mystery of human life. But it will only be apparent to those who have eyes to see. The mystic significance of these pictorial phrases will prove only a snare or a basis for incredulity to the man who seeks to materialize them unduly. The thought of an immortal existence, of a divine entity, of a great center of fiery energy, and of the full flower of evolution, this is different ways of describing the vision, or the presence, lies hidden in these terms, and they must be considered. So, immortal, divine entity, center of fiery energy, full flower of evolution. This is what we're sensing in the presence, which is revealed to us in the chamber of initiation, gradually even starting from the very first initiation. That we do forget, well, we forget. But after the third initiation, I think we don't forget so much. Okay, well then that's it. Are there any questions? After lunch, we will go on to the vision, to the rod of power, to the administration of the oath, and finally to the impartation of the secret or the word. And then you'll be ready for your own ceremonial enactment